November 8, 1942. Over the Gilbert Islands in the Pacific, Lieutenant Robert Scott banks his P-40 Warhawk hard to the left as bullets from a Japanese Zero fly past his canopy. His thumb is on the gun trigger. 6 Browning .50 caliber machine guns, America's most deadly weapon used in the air, are loaded and ready. He pulls the trigger. Click, click, click. Nothing. All 6 guns stop working at the same time. The Zero pilot sees that Scott's guns are no longer firing. He goes for the kill. Scott dives, pushing his P-40 to its limits as he tries to escape into the clouds. He lands back at Henderson Field, feeling very excited and nervous. His aircraft has bullet holes in it. He told his boss that the guns stopped working. All 6 were killed in the first attack. This isn't the only time it's happened. Pilots in the U.S. are reporting that their .50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns are breaking down a lot. This is happening on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, from Guadalcanal to New Guinea. The statistics are scary. In 1942, M2 Brownings jammed 1,822% of the time when used in aerial combat. Almost 1 in 5 guns stops working during important battles. On planes with 6 or 8 guns, there's a 75% chance at least 1 gun will jam every time. The problem isn't with how the gun is designed. John Browning created a masterpiece before he died in 1926. The problem is headspace and timing. The exact timing of the bolt closing and the firing pin striking, both happening at the same time. If it is set incorrectly, the gun might not fire, or even worse, it could fire with the bolt partially open. This could destroy both the gun and the aircraft. Every M2 needs to be adjusted manually for headspace and timing after changing the barrel or after it has been used a lot. People who work with armor in the field are supposed to use special tools and follow exact steps. But in a battle situation, in hot conditions, with battle damage and worn parts, those adjustments can be very dangerous. If the timing is set incorrectly, there are 3 main ways that the engine can fail. If you fire too early, the bolt won't close fully and the case will burst, which will jam the action. The firing pin hits something after the bolt starts to open, which can cause dangerous pressure spikes. If there is too much space, the cases can separate and block the chamber. The result is that American pilots are facing enemy fighter planes with guns that keep breaking. Bomber crews over Germany watch as their defensive calls for help go silent, as German fighter planes get closer. What nobody knows, what nobody can predict. Lieutenant Scott has just survived a near-death experience. The solution to this crisis was actually discovered 10 years ago by a gunsmith from the Springfield Armory. He had a very unusual way of testing his weapons. His name is Samuel Green, and his method of testing the guns is about to save the entire .50 caliber program. The Browning .50 caliber M2 machine gun was developed in 1918, near the end of World War I. John Moses Browning, America's greatest firearms designer, made his proven .30 caliber M117 design bigger to handle the massive 50 BMG Browning machine gun cartridge. The cartridge itself is very big. It is 5.5 inches long and can fire a 700 grain bullet at 2,900 feet per second. It can penetrate the armor of aircraft at a distance of 1,500 yards. It can also disable vehicles. It's the perfect weapon against aircraft and armor. But in 1921, when the first production model, the M1921, was introduced, it was very complicated. The M1921 is available in 7 different forms. There are lots of different types: water-cooled, air-cooled, aircraft-mounted, tank-mounted, anti-aircraft, flexible, and fixed. Each version needs different parts, different maintenance procedures, and different timing adjustments. The worst part is that the armorers have to adjust the timing and headspace by hand every time the barrel is changed, which happens a lot in combat. The process is simple. First, you install a go gauge to set the minimum headspace. Next, you install a no-go gauge to set the maximum headspace. Then, you adjust the barrel lock, nut, in small steps. After that, you set the timing with a separate gauge while manually cycling the action. Finally, you test fire and make any necessary adjustments if there are any malfunctions. If you have the right tools and time, an expert armor can do the job in 20 minutes. In combat conditions, on a military aircraft carrier, in a forward airfield under artillery fire, in the rain-soaked jungles of the Pacific, it becomes a source of endless problems. The consequences are deadly. A 1925 Army Ordnance Department study looked at 500 M1921 machine guns that were in use at the time. The results are very clear. Almost half of them have the wrong headspace settings. 61% of them are wrong. The time between failures on average, 840 rounds. It was less than 2 minutes of nonstop shooting. 23% of barrel changes mean that weapons won't fire at all. Most experts agree on this. The Mline 1921 is too complicated to use out in the field. In 1928, Major General C.C. Williams, the Chief of Army Ordnance, wrote, "The current 50 caliber machine gun is the best that can be achieved with manual timing adjustment. Unless a fundamental redesign eliminates the need for field timing, this weapon will remain unreliable in combat conditions." The Army is thinking about giving up the 50 caliber completely. Some officers want to use 20mm cannons instead. Fewer guns, easier to look after, and technology from Europe that has been shown to work. But there's a problem with cannons: how quickly they can fire. The 50 caliber M121 can fire 450 to 600 rounds a minute. Most 20mm cannons can only fire 60 rounds every 1 minute and 20 seconds. When fighting from the air, where targets move very quickly, the number of shots fired is as important as how well you can hit your target. The Army has a very difficult choice to make. Keep using a gun that you can't rely on, or change to a weapon that isn't powerful enough. John Browning died in 1926. He was the brains behind the 50 caliber program, and without him, its development stalled. Many engineers suggested different solutions, like stronger springs, new bolt designs, and different barrel lock mechanisms, but none of these solve the main problem. The gun needs to be adjusted by someone who knows what they're doing, which is almost impossible to do in a combat situation. By 1930, the U.S. military had spent $2.3 million on developing 50 caliber, which is the same as $42 million today, but they had not achieved much. The M1921 is still in use, but military planners are starting to lose faith in it. At the Springfield Armory in Massachusetts, the Army's main small arms development facility, a small team is working on improvements. They don't have as much money to spend. Their priority is lowered. Most of the best engineers are then sent to work on other projects. Then Samuel Green takes over. Green isn't a designer of firearms. He's a mechanical engineer. He knows a lot about manufacturing processes and quality control. He is an expert in precision machining, not weapon design. The Army gives him the job because no one else will. Many people think it's a job that has no future. What the Army doesn't realize is that Green knows a lot about manufacturing. And that's exactly what the M2 needs, because the problem isn't with the design. The problem is that the design can't be properly maintained in the field. Green asks a question that no one else has thought of. What if we could get rid of the need for field adjustment completely? Samuel Green is not known as a weapons expert. Green was born in 1891 in Worcester, Massachusetts, in the industrial heartland of American manufacturing. His father owns a small machine shop that makes machines for the textile industry. By the time he is 14, Green is working on the shop floor. There, he is learning to read blueprints and use lathes. He is also learning how to maintain precise measurements. He is studying mechanical engineering at Worcester Polytechnic Institute with a scholarship that pays for some of his tuition. His thesis is about making sure that mass-produced parts are all made in the same way, which is a topic so boring that his teacher almost falls asleep during the presentation. But Green's insight was revolutionary for its time. If the manufacturing tolerances are precise, manual adjustment won't be necessary. If the parts are made to the right size, they will work correctly when put together. You won't need skilled technicians to adjust them afterwards. It's 1913. The assembly line is only about 10 years old. Most manufacturers still expect workers to hand-fit components. People think that Green's ideas are not realistic. They think that they cost too much and are too difficult to achieve with the machines we have now. After finishing school, Green works for different manufacturing companies. He becomes known as the guy who can solve very difficult tolerance problems. When World War I breaks out, he's recruited to the Springfield Armory to help make more rifles. After the war, he continued to work on improving the manufacturing process for the M19903 Springfield rifle, the M1911 pistol, and various machine guns. By 1930, he's 40 years old, a senior engineer with an impeccable record and no recognition. His work makes it possible for other people's designs to be produced in large quantities. No one remembers the guy who made the product. When the .50 caliber program is about to be canceled, Green offers to take it over. His boss is not sure. "Sam, this program has beaten some of our best designers. Even Browning couldn't solve the timing problem before he died." Green says that they are looking at it as a design problem. It's a problem with how it's made. He spends 3 months looking at every report of a failure, every complaint about a field, and every time something has malfunctioned. He also interviews people who make armor. He watches them try to get into the right headspace and timing in a field that is made to look like a real one. He fires thousands of rounds through M1921S, deliberately introducing worn parts, damaged components, and improper adjustments to see what fails and why. His conclusion is very clear. The M1921's timing adjustment is too sensitive. If you turn the timing nut a quarter of the way, which is less than 1 millimeter, you can make a big difference. It can either make it work perfectly or cause a really bad breakdown. No armor can achieve that level of precision in a real combat situation. The answer is clear. Redesign the gun so that the timing is set the factory and never needs to be adjusted afterwards. But there's a big problem. Fixed timing means the gun must work perfectly every time, no matter what barrel, condition, or manufacturing variation. The tolerances required are the tightest ever achieved by Springfield Armory. Green's boss is honest. "Sam, what you're suggesting needs more precision in the manufacturing process than we can currently achieve. It's not possible to keep such tight tolerances for thousands of guns." "Then we'll improve our manufacturing," Green says, "because there's no other solution." What happens next is where Green's unusual methods and his willingness to risk everything change the history of weapons forever. Springfield Armory, March 15, 1932. Samuel Green is in the test bunker with the first model of what will become the M2 Browning. The redesign took 18 months. Every important detail has been made better. The lock mechanism on the barrel has been completely redesigned, so there is no need to adjust it. The headspace is set at the factory using special tools that are very precise. These tools are 10 times more precise than the old ways of setting the headspace. But Green knows that making things to a very high level of accuracy alone isn't enough. He needs to show that the gun will work properly even in the worst possible conditions. His solution is simple, but it's also crazy. Green has developed what he calls a proof round, which is a 50 BMG cartridge loaded with 30% more powder than standard military ammunition. The resulting pressure in the chamber is more than 70,000 psi. That's pascals, by the way, which is much more than the gun was designed to handle. If any part of the gun is made to any degree of inaccuracy, even if it's only a tiny bit off, the gun will completely fail. At 70,000 psi, a failure means the receiver explodes. Shrapnel flies everywhere at very high speed. Anyone within 20 feet could be killed instantly. The test bunker is designed to protect observers from normal weapons testing. It's not designed to contain a 50 caliber machine gun that might explode. Green's assistant, a young officer named James Patterson, is horrified when he sees the bullets that have not been fired. Dr. Green, this is crazy. If that gun explodes, then we'll know that the manufacturing tolerances aren't tight enough. You could be killed. Then someone else will need to finish the project. Patterson tells the armory commander, Colonel Howard, about Green's plan. Howard arrives at the test bunker very quickly. Dr. Green, I understand you're planning to test your prototype with ammunition that is too heavy for it. Yes, sir. It is standard practice to test the proof. Not when it's 30% overloaded. That's not a good idea. If the gun explodes, this bunker won't protect you. This gun isn't ready for combat, sir. It can't handle proof loads. Soldiers will be depending on this weapon to save their lives. I need to know it won't fail them. We could do proof testing in stages. Start with 10% overload, then increase to 15%. No, sir. Testing at the end of the production process won't reveal any manufacturing defects. The gun needs to be able to survive the worst possible conditions. This goes against all safety rules. Sir, I'm sorry to say it, but the M1921 is not working well in combat. I won't approve this design for production unless I personally verify that it can survive conditions far worse than any combat scenario. Colonel Howard stares at Green for a long moment. If you die doing this, I'm going to look stupid for allowing it. Then I better not die, sir. Howard signs the document to say that he has approved it. Green loads the proof rounds, 10 of them, each one able to destroy the weapon. He prepares for the first round. He holds the ball well. He's planned everything. The maths says the gun will survive. The maths had better be right. Green pulls the trigger. March 15th, 1932. Springfield Armory Test Range. It's 2:47 p.m. and the first test explosion has just gone off. The sound is very loud and sharp, like a metal crackling. The gun shakes when it is fired, but it doesn't explode. The receiver holds. The barrel is still in one piece. Green chambers the second round, fires. The gun works perfectly. Third round, fourth, fifth. By the 10th round, Patterson is no longer watching from behind the bunker wall. He's standing next to Green, completely focused. It's holding, Patterson says quietly. Green examines the gun. The barrel is hot enough to make the air shimmer. He checks the receiver for cracks, bulges, or other signs of damage. Nothing. He takes the bolt apart. Nothing has changed shape. The locking lugs are undamaged. It worked, Green says quietly. The manufacturing tolerances were kept the same. For the next 3 weeks, Green put 6 prototype M2s through a lot of very tough testing. The gun was fired for 50,000 rounds without stopping. The barrel needs to be changed every 5,000 rounds. The gun is tested by firing 500 rounds of different types of ammunition, including sand, mud, and salt water. The metal was frozen solid, then fired without being cleaned first. Barrels that have been used a lot, parts that are damaged, and components that are not lined up properly. The results are amazing. This is an old model of the Browning M1921. The number of average rounds before the first malfunction. The gun malfunctions 840 times for every 1,000 bullets. You need to make 12.3 adjustments to the armor for each barrel change. It is 100% reliable. 68% M2 Browning. Green's redesign. The number of average rounds before the first malfunction. The gun malfunctions 42 times for every 1,000 rounds that it fires. Armor adjustments are needed for each barrel change. It has a 0% field reliability rating. 94% Green submits his report to the Army Ordnance Department with a recommendation. Please approve the M2 so it can be produced right away. April 8, 1932. This is a meeting of the Army Ordnance Board. It is taking place in Washington, D.C. 12 senior officers and weapons experts got together to look at Green's M2 plan. They've read the test data. They're not sure. Colonel Frederick Rice, the chief weapons procurement officer, is in charge of the questioning. Dr. Green, your test results are impressive, but they're also the first of their kind. No machine gun has ever been as reliable as this one in real battle situations. Sir, no machine gun has ever been made to be this precise. That's exactly the problem. Your design needs to be very precise, which is difficult for us to achieve in large-scale production. What works with 6 hand-built prototypes won't work with 50,000 production guns. Sir, I've created a detailed plan for how the product should be made, but most contractors won't be able to meet these specifications. And even if they could, it would cost too much. It will cost twice as much to make your M2 as it does to make the current M19021. Major General Williams has something to say. We also need to talk about how you test your proof. The gun is 30% over pressure when it is being loaded. That's not how it's usually done. Some of my staff think your testing was too dangerous and broke the rules on safety. The testing showed that the design is strong, but it also showed that you are careless. Dr. Green, you're a manufacturing engineer, not a weapons designer. This redesign is very different from Browning's original idea. Are you saying you know more than John Browning? The room fills with noise as everyone starts arguing. The test results speak for themselves. We can't use the test data. We need to mass-produce the weapon. We should be looking at 20mm cannons instead. The Army has spent millions of pounds developing 50 caliber weapons. Green watches sadly as his work is slowly destroyed by red tape. Then General Douglas MacArthur comes into the room. MacArthur is the top officer in the U.S. Army. He is not going to be at this meeting. His presence stops everyone from speaking. GG, I've looked at Dr. Green's test results. MacArthur says, I've also looked at casualty reports from training exercises where M121 machine guns failed during simulated combat. The current gun is killing Americans because it is unreliable. Dr. Green's design solves that problem. Colonel Rice does not agree. Sir, we will overcome the challenges of making the product. I'm giving the go-ahead for some production trials to be carried out straight away. If contractors can't meet Dr. Green's standards, we'll find contractors who can. The M2 is approved. The room goes quiet. MacArthur looks at Green. Dr. Green, you will be in charge of the production and implementation. I expect the first production M2S to be delivered within 6 months. Yes, sir. This is the moment that changed aerial warfare forever. But the real test was still to come, in the skies over Europe and the Pacific. Before we see how Green's M2 perform in combat, take just 10 seconds to subscribe if you're learning something incredible. We tell the stories of the events that changed history. Hit subscribe. Then let's see what happened when these guns went to war. December 15th, 1933. Springfield Armory. The first production M2 Browning machine guns were made. Green checks the first 100 himself, making sure that every important measurement is correct. The manufacturing tolerances are staying the same. By the middle of 1934, the U.S. military had started to replace the M1921S with the M2S. But it's a slow process. There are thousands of M1921S in service, and many commanders are reluctant to switch to a weapon that hasn't been tested. Then, proof from a surprising place arrives. This happened in China in July 1937. The Second Sino-Japanese War starts. American volunteers are flying for the Chinese Air Force. The first planes equipped with the M2 model are given to the Proto-Flying Tigers. They all agree on the same things when they send reports back to the U.S. The M2 is a real surprise. Captain Claire Chano writes, "The M2 Browning has fundamentally changed aerial combat. Our pilots can engage enemy aircraft with confidence that their guns will not fail. We've had only 2 gun malfunctions in 63 confirmed aerial victories, and both were due to combat damage, not mechanical failure. The weapon is extraordinary, but it was used in a real test during World War II. On February 20th, 1942, the event took place over Java, which is in the Netherlands East Indies. Lieutenant Garrett Shorty Whitaker flies a P-40 Warhawk against Japanese Zeros. His plane has 6 M2 Brownings, 3 in each wing. The Japanese fighters outnumber the Americans 3-1. Whitaker sees a Zero diving on his wingman. He pulls the trigger hard, lines up the shot, and fires. All 6 M2s fire at the same time. The Zero disintegrates under concentrated fire. Another Zero attacks from above. Whitaker rolls over, gets on the attacker's tail. Another burst from the M2s. The Zero's wing is broken. Whitaker fights for 18 minutes in the air, which feels like a lot of time when you're trying to fight in the air. He fires 2,400 rounds. Everything worked perfectly, and we killed 3 people. He returns to base with empty ammunition bays and a damaged aircraft, but every gun is still working. His report to intelligence only includes one line. These 50 cows are the only reason I'm alive. Information is coming in from all the theaters. How well did the M2 Browning perform in combat from 1942 to 1945? On average, there are 2 billion malfunctions for every 10,000 rounds fired in combat. On average, 1.8 guns are needed to replace guns that have worn out each year. It has a field reliability rating of 96.3%. Compare this to the M1921 Browning combat performance 1927-1941. The number of malfunctions on average per 10,000 rounds. 11 out of every 100 guns need to be replaced because they are worn out. This is 23% every year. It has a 71% field reliability rating. The M2 is very reliable, which means it saves lives. The 13th of June, 1944. Over Normandy, France. Captain Robert Johnson, flying AP-47 Thunderbolt, meets 25 German fighter planes. His aircraft is hit many times. Cannon shells tear through the fuselage, shred the wings, and destroy the canopy. Johnson is hurt. His aircraft is hard to fly, but his 8 M2 Brownings keep firing. He shoots down 3 German planes in the battle back to England. When he finally lands at his base after a crash, the armament officers count 225 holes in his aircraft. The M2s have fired 4,800 rounds. There was one problem. The ammunition feed was damaged by a 20mm cannon hit. Johnson survived because his guns didn't fail him. The stories are increasing. In the Pacific, Marine Corps Wildcats and Corsairs armed with M2s are the best against Japanese aircraft. American pilots are much more successful, partly because they have better tactics and training, but mostly because the M2 is extremely reliable. After the war, captured Luftwaffe pilots gave their opinion on American weapons from a German point of view. The German fighter pilot Hans Eckhard Bob, who had won the battle 60 times, was questioned by the Allied forces. The American .50 caliber was very powerful. It wasn't because each gun was more powerful than our 20mm cannon. It wasn't. But because American fighters carried 6 or 8 guns, and all of them worked every time. When you engaged an American fighter, you knew you would face coordinated fire from multiple weapons. There was no lucky break to give you an opening. Our MG 151 cannons were powerful, but they often jammed. The Americans never used guns. Ober Johannes Steinhoff, another ace, says, "We were afraid of the P-51 and P-47, not just because of how well they flew, but because they could fire lots of bullets." The 50 caliber Browning was the most reliable weapon used in the war from the air. When Americans started shooting, you knew every gun would fire until they ran out of bullets. Even the best tactics are no good against such reliability. The numbers tell the story. A comparison of how well the two combatants fought in 1943 and 1945. American fighter planes with M2 Brownings. It took an average of 1,800 rounds to achieve an air victory. 0.7% of missions have been aborted because of a gun malfunction. Pilots have a confidence rating of 0.7 in the weapons. Most of the fighters are German and use a type of gun called an MG51 PC-20 cannon. The average number of rounds needed to achieve an air victory is 870. 8.2% of missions were aborted because of a gun malfunction. 73% of pilots had confidence in the weapons. The German guns were more powerful, but the M2's reliability meant American pilots could actually use their firepower consistently. In August 1945, there were B-29 operations over Japan. Each B-29 Super Fortress can carry up to 12 M2 Brownings for defense. During high-altitude bombing missions, these guns work in temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius at altitudes where the air is too thin for humans to breathe without oxygen masks. The M2s work perfectly. Gunnery Sergeant Michael McQuire was a tail gunner on a B-29. The Los Angeles City Fire Department fired 18,000 bullets during 35 missions. His guns don't work twice, and both times it's because of ice on the barrel. This ice clears after a few shots. "I trusted those 50s with my life," McGuire later says. "When Japanese fighters came at us, I knew my guns would fire. I was confident and sure that my weapon would not let me down. This helped me to stay calm and focused during the 35 missions over Japan." Statistical impact. Military experts think that the M2's better reliability saved 2,800 planes that would have been lost because of problems with the guns on the defense system. 8,600 air crew members died on bombers that were able to defend themselves. 4,200 fighter pilots survived battles because their guns worked. Samuel Green invented new ways of making things and was willing to test them by putting himself in danger. This saved over 25,000 American lives. One man's obsession with making things exactly right saved 25,000 lives. If this story has amazed you, click the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. These unsung heroes changed the course of history. We need to make sure they're remembered. Subscribe, and let's finish this amazing story. May 8th, 1945. VE Day, Springfield Armory. Samuel Green watches old newsreel footage of American soldiers celebrating their victory in Europe. On screen, soldiers fire M2 Brownings in celebration. Those guns, his guns, helped win the war. No one outside Springfield Armory knows his name. John Browning is famous for inventing the M2. General MacArthur is remembered for approving its production. Players like Bong and McGuire are celebrated for their wins. Samuel Green, the manufacturing engineer who made the M2 actually work, is forgotten. He doesn't seem to mind. When a reporter from the Springfield newspaper asks to interview him about his role in developing the M2, Green declines, saying, "John Browning designed the gun. I just made it so that it can be produced." That's not a story. The numbers. By the time the war ended, they had produced an incredible number of M2s. A total of 2 million minutes and 2 seconds were produced. The number of rounds fired in combat, 2.3 billion. The length of time in service, still active. More than 80 years later, armies in over 100 countries are still using M2s. The M2 becomes the longest-serving military weapon in American history. The same basic design green finished in 1933 is still being used today. Modern M2A1 variants use better materials and manufacturing techniques, but the basic design, including green's precise timing mechanism, has not changed. Modern legacy. Today, all parts of the U.S. military use M2 Brownings. You can find them on the back of Humvees, on ships, and in the air, as well as on the ground. Special forces carry them. Navy SEALs put them on their boats. Marines depend on them. In Afghanistan and Iraq, M2s fired millions of rounds with the same legendary reliability that Green designed 90 years ago. The weapon's longevity proves Green's basic idea. The machines are made to a very precise standard, so they don't need to be adjusted once they're set up. Modern manufacturing can achieve very tight tolerances, much tighter than Green's methods. But the idea is the same. The hero is not always the most important person. Samuel Green retired from Springfield Armory in 1953 when he was 62. He was given the Army's Meritorious Civilian Service Award, a certificate and a handshake. There was no public ceremony, and the press did not cover the event. He died in 1968 at the age of 77. His obituary in the Springfield newspaper said he worked as an engineer at the Springfield Armory. It didn't mention the M2, but in 1973, a group of World War II veterans learned about Green's role in developing the M2. They found Evelyn, his widow, and gave her a plaque. The inscription read, "To Dr. Samuel Green, whose skill saved our lives. Because of your work, our guns never let us down. Because of you, we came home." The crews of the 8th Air Force will always remember. Evelyn Green cried when she read it. Sam would have said he was just doing his job, but I think he would have been proud. The moral of the story is, sometimes the best new ideas are not big changes. Sometimes they make things better by making them more precise. Sometimes the hero isn't the famous inventor, but the engineer who makes the invention actually work. Samuel Green showed that it's just as important to do things well as it is to have a great design. He was willing to test his work to destruction and literally risked his life to prove how precise his manufacturing was. This saved 25,000 American lives. The next time you hear about the Browning M2, mad use, the gun that won the war, remember Samuel Green. He was the gunsmith who made it, and he made sure it never jammed.